Alright guys, I'm going to do a quick deck tech on my new fun deck here. It's a deck that I like to play with my buddies who don't play quite as competitive, and as such I've pretty much banned myself from blue and black because I can't really help myself. Blue just has way too many good cards and good effects, and black with all its vintage power tutors and Yawgmoth's Will and Necropotence and things like that just ends up leading to the same things all the time, and they're all kind of too broken. And then when you do anything else, it just feels like worse versions of doing that. So I decided to make a red-green deck that was kind of fun, that I could play in my more laid-back play group, and have kind of some more fun games. But though it is quite powerful, I've been kind of grinding it out here on MTGO for like a couple days. There's a couple other lands I don't have on MTGO that I want to put in this deck that I have in real life, and I've just quickly assembled it here, both online and offline. Um, I'm just going to walk through all the cards and why they're good and what their purpose is and how the deck works. The first thing I want to show you here is the general. Is it Z? Yes. Omnath, Locus of Rage. He's 7 mana, so he costs quite a bit. But he has a sweet ability here. Landfall puts a 5/5 elemental creature token into the battlefield, and whenever him or another elemental dies, 3 damage target creature player. Obviously, you put him back in the command zone, you don't get the trigger on him by himself. But whenever lands enter the battlefield, you get to make 5/5s, which is disgusting. And when they die, you get a lightning bolt someone, which is also kind of disgusting. He is quite expensive, so we're obviously going to be playing a lot of ramp to not only get up to him, but be able to do things after we get him out into play. And obviously recasting him is going to cost a lot, and he's going to be targeted down pretty heavily, costing 7 and having such a powerful ability. So we want to run a lot of lands in this deck compared to what I normally would. We run 37 right here. I think there's about 15 forests in here, and I think that's where I want to make a change. I think I want to do 1 forest to be a filter land, 1 forest to be petrified field, which is like 15 bucks on here I don't have, which just is a colorless land that lets you sack to return lands from your graveyard, which will help with Realms Uncharted to get back Gaia's Cradle and such like that, as well as just getting any other important land back. And then other land I kind of wanted to play was Homeward Path. Even though it hasn't been a problem yet, I could see someone stealing this card, just completely breaking my strategy, because I did build this deck around the general quite a bit. It'll function without him, but it definitely is built around him quite a bit. We've got all 7 regular fetch lands in here, as well as Myriad Landscape, Wasteland, and Strip Mine, as well as Command Tower, Cinderglade, both the Shockland and the regular duel, as well as Cavern of Souls and Ancient Tomb. And I think there's like 6 or 7 mountains in the deck to go along with the forests. It's mostly green, so obviously want more green. And with all the fetch lands and some of the double lands, and if I replace one of these forests for a filter, I think that should be about right. It can handle playing some colorless lands being 2 colors and heavily green skewed. At 0, I haven't tested Mox Diamond or Chrome Mox or anything like that. They're probably pretty decent here. But the card draw isn't as excellent as it would be in like blue or black. So it's definitely has the potential to not be as good, especially when if you miss a land drop in this deck, it can be really bad. But it could also be very, very good if you get a good hand. To start off my 1-drops, I play Pyroblast and Red Elemental Blast. Blue decks can be an absolute pain in the ass. They've just got better cards than you, and being able to stop them from countering your huge plays is huge, as well as just being able to stop other overly powered blue cards that would otherwise win the game. Exploration and Findhorn Elves. I don't play the Dried Arbor here because I think in general my Green Sun Zenith, etc. should be getting something else. I really don't want to have to use them to go get Dried Arbor, and playing the Dried Arbor will just set you up when in a deck that already doesn't like getting Wrath. Doesn't mind it too much, but obviously doesn't want the board to be Wrathed. Getting blown out even more is not necessarily that good. I think this could easily be Birds of Paradise. In fact, it's not really relevant that it's an elf at all, so guess what? It's you can tell I've only had this deck for a few days. Though I think this is what I put in my offline, since I have a foil of it anyway. But yeah, play 1 mana Accelerator here. It's not bad. Gives us another acceleration piece at 1. Can tutor it in a pinch if we're like against someone who got a super fast start. Just gives us another body to pitch to things. Don't really need to play a ton of these. I'd rather play the land ramp, but playing 1's fine. Expedition map to go find Cradle and other important lands. Fetch land to start fetch land engines with Crucible, etc. Strip mine if we need to kill someone else's land or keep someone down. especially in like a 1v1 situation, but mostly this is here to find Gaia's Cradle. Exploration, because we want to play lots of extra land drop spells, because extra land drops means extra 5/5s, as well as hopefully we've got enough draw in this deck to be able to just constantly pump lands. It also gives us an engine with both Life from the Loam and Crucible Worlds, these extra land drop effects. Also helps us ramp into the early game. We have a lot of lands, so there's a pretty good chance we can get this in hand with the 4 lands and easily be able to get up to 5-6 lands really, really quick. Mana Vault and Soul Ring, just because they're very, very good, super efficient. Won't have a deck without Soul Ring. And the Mana Vault, I don't play the Grim Monolith here, though I could, but the Mana Vault's definitely worth playing. At 2, we've got Sylvan Scrying, yet again, a special land tutor, mostly to go get, Cavern of Souls if we're against a counter spell, or, Gaia's Cradle in general. Sylvan Library, green staple, excellent card draw, or even in this deck, just card quality, as well as sets up for some of the top of deck Oracle will die, Corsair Crufix effects. Survival, creature tutor with 21 creatures. It's easy to get creatures in your hand. We have other ways of getting them as well. Good chance that this can go tutor and go get us exactly the creature we need for whatever phase of the game we're in when we draw any creature once it's on board. So it's not as super combo as it could be in some decks, but it's still very, very good. Sakura Tribe Elder, ramp spell on a stick, can block and then sack. Also, because it's a creature, it's easier to fetch up, easier to switch around and do other things with, so it's good. Nature's Lore, just standard ramp card. Lotus Cobra. Lotus Cobra is excellent in this deck because we're going to be making all the extra land drops, and with fetch lands, etc. If we can get that synergy going, he makes tons and tons of mana. Also happens to combo a little bit with the Perilous Forays, where we can do tons of damage and make tokens and just make everyone's life hell. Ramp every land with a basic land type out of our deck, which is pretty much all of them. Though you wouldn't necessarily go grab all of them, you might just grab some of them. But it does let you do it as many times as you want. The Life from Loam is very good. It lets you go get back land so you can keep making the land drops. Just more stuff to keep Omnath churning. Good way to pick cards back up after you played the Realms Uncharted or something like that. And plus with the exploration effects, etc. Once you're getting fetch lands and stuff moving, it's very easy to just turn this into 3 double landfall drops, and all of a sudden you're at 6 triggers. So excellent here. The sacrifice outlets are actually incredibly important in this deck, in that you don't really want to overextend, and that's one of the things I learned just piling in the deck the first couple days, is instead of taking a line that looks like it's tap out efficient to where you could easily set up a kill the next turn, it's oftentimes much better to just get your general out, make 3 or 4 tokens, and leave sacrifice outlets up like this one that gets you gas cards, so that when people do respond to the pressure you're putting onto them from board, you just sack all your stuff, use your lightning bolts to either damage or remove other problem permanents, and just fill your hand right back up with good stuff to cast on your turn. So this one's actually incredibly excellent in this deck. Way better than Birthing Pod would have been. The Crucible of Worlds, obviously, with all the land drops and the fetch lands and the strip mines and all the Azusa type effects I'm running this card's obviously the nuts. Eternal Witness, since it's tutorable as a creature, it pretty much is a creature regrowth for anything in my graveyard. You have to cast Wheel early and lose your Craterhoof Behemoth, but still want to smash everyone's face with it at the end of the game. This is your man. Very, very good card. Corsair Crufix, card advantage, gives you extra life when lands enter the battlefield, mostly so you can play lands off the top of your deck. Creature Searchable Disenchant, most effective, efficient one. Realms Uncharted, very good for getting all the special lands in this deck. Grabs you 4 cards, it puts at least 2 lands in your hand. Very good card. This is Pilgrimage. This is kind of like a new Cultivate effect, which I kind of like the Cultivates in this deck because you're getting 2 cards for 3 mana. I'm playing things like Ancient Tomb and Mana Crypt, so I can get it off really, really quick. And you want to not only be able to ramp up to Omnath, but you want to be able to make a land drop after you play them. So these effects are really good. The Spell Mastery is pretty easy to get online in this deck, and later in the game this will just give you an extra land, which is kind of nice. The Nissa Vastwood Seer / Nissa Sage Animist is really, really good in this deck. Yet again, creature, so it's easily searchable, or you can pull it off the top of your deck with your Evolutionary Leap, etc. But it comes into play and gives you a Sylvan Ranger type effect. But once you get to 7 lands, which you do incredibly quickly in this deck, it flips and turns into card advantage that can also continue to be ramp. That also can put an elemental token into play, which has decent synergy with the general, and has a pretty powerful untap, though you probably will kill them before you get this thing up to 7. Because when you're at 7 lands, it won't take 4 more turns to end the game with this deck. But the first 2 abilities are excellent, especially the +1. Kodama's Reach and Cultivate, same thing as not Realms Uncharted. This is Pilgrimage, except they can fix this into red, which is incredibly important considering how many green lands we're playing. Very possible we have multiple forests in our hands and go get that double red to cast Omnath. Azusa Lost But Seeking, 2 extra land drops a turn for 3 on a creature body. That's just about as good as it gets for getting our engines rolling. Wheel of Fortune, just standard good stuff. Draw 7. Not a ton of draw in these colors, though we've kind of found ways to make up for it. So very, very good standard card. And then Elemental Bond, incredibly good draw, incredibly efficient package where you can just crack fetch lands and draw 2 cards, which seems pretty damn good to me. When you're making extra land drops and stuff, this can easily just be drawing new hands. So very, very powerful enchantment at a good cost. Thran Dynamo, standard good stuff ramp, 4 mana, ramps you up 3. You can use it on your turn, so it's easy to squeeze more value out of your turn and just go turbo ramp so that your next turn can be absolutely lethal. Good early in the game. Notable that when you go to 4, if you have a land drop afterwards, that'll put you at 7 for Omnath, and you're still going to make your land drop afterwards. You're probably going to be hoarding fetches in this deck instead of running them out right away, so can easily get you to a turn 5 Omnath with 1 or 2 tokens out all by itself. Land ramp card on a creature body. Happily sack it to any of my sack outlets. Gets me an extra card, can block. Not necessarily the greatest card in the world, but not bad here either. Xenagos the Reveler, has a Gaia's Cradle effect that also taps for red on his plus. That's the main reason we want to play him. You can also turn his own ability online if you don't have creatures yet. Get him in your opener, makes 2/2s, which is excellent. Mina and Den is another exploration effect with a side of 2 mana, bounce Gaia's Cradle to your hand and play it again, which is just absolutely disgusting. So we definitely like that. Being able to tap Cradle 3 or 4 times in one turn and make stupid amounts of mana is something I'd like to do all day. The Gain's Trample effect is just kind of like gravy and usually irrelevant. Because once you've made tons and tons of mana with the thing, it's just disgusting. But even if you don't have the Gaia's Cradle, if you don't have land drops, being able to make land drops can easily turn into cards or elementals or kills or more creatures in this deck, so obviously excellent. Another sack outlet, yet again, one that lets us have a little bit more resilience. Someone wants to cast a Decree of Pain or something like that, or even a Terminus or anything disgusting you don't want to see. Well, in response, I sack my whole team and cast like 6 dig through times and bolt you for 15. Seems pretty good to me. Garruk Wildspeaker untaps lands, including Cradle. A couple double lands in this deck with the Ancient Tomb as well. Also has the Overrun effect to finish a game out, and can make blockers for himself or produce creatures when we don't have any on the board when we play him right away or don't have anything on the field that can attack him. You could put a 3/3 to block it, especially if you don't have a play behind his plus ability. Skystride's Claim, good stuff ramp. Double lands in a play, double landfall triggers, good stuff. Oracle of Moldai, another extra land drop effect, also has the Corsair Crew Physic effects, so it's also card advantage, can play cards off the top of your deck, which is very nice. Ogre Battle Driver is just pretty much a haste outlet, but he's on a creature, so he's easier to find. He also makes them quite a little bit stronger when they come into play with the +2/+0, so fetch lands instead of making 5/5s, make 7/5s with haste. Perforce God of the Forge, just a kill card when you're making tons and tons of elemental tokens, or you cast an Avenger Zendikar or something like that, can just do massive amounts of damage to the whole table and kill them outright. Similar to haste. Gilded Lotus, good stuff ramp, gets us 3 ahead, gets us straight into Omnath, good stuff. Titania, elemental, makes elementals when lands go in the graveyard, so excellent with the fetch lands, the Myriad Landscape, that type stuff. Also tutors a land right back into play from your graveyard, so it gives you immediate value. You can easily immediately turn that into 2 5/3s. Just an excellent card. All elementals, so they all get the bolt off Omnath. Good little bit of redundancy there. Shamanic Revelation, one of the multiple collective unconscious effects we play, except definitely the best one at 5 instead of 6. And the gain 4 life is actually very, very relevant in this deck because you're making 5/5s and have a 5/5 general. It's very easy to gain 20, 30, 40 life when you cast this card while you're casting it just for the card advantage, which is excellent. Perilous Foray is kind of like a combo card, another sack outlet. Lets you sack your creatures to ramp lands, and you can make more creatures and ramp more lands and bolt people every single time. So, very, very good card. Like I said, combos well with the Lotus Cobra and the General. And this is a World Waker. Also can turn things into elementals, give them trample and attack as we get stupidly high amounts of lands later in the game and don't care about losing one possibly, as well as can, use one of those sack outlets to get value out of the body. But mainly it's a 5 mana card that ramps 4. It's pretty easy to get that many forests, and it can also untap the dual lands since it just says forests. So ramps 4 seems good to me. If you ever get to its -7, it's absolutely excellent. Search your library for any number of basic lands, put them onto the battlefield, then shuffle your library. So pretty much its -7 is giant boundless realms, except they all become 4/4 elementals. So you put, maybe 10, 12 elementals in play and get the landfall triggers and 10, 12 more elementals, and a sack outlet alone like Greater Good could end up just bolting the entire game to death. So pretty good there. Freylisa Llanowar's Fury makes Llanowar Elves for +2, which is pretty good. Disenchant -2, and if you can get up to Collective Unconscious, which isn't that difficult, can draw you tons and tons of cards after putting them out on the board. So ramp, disenchant, and card draw. Acidic Slime, yet again, not one of my favorite cards in the world, but happens to get the job done. Just another form of disenchant on a body at a fairly decent price. Can also kill lands, which is important. Has Death Touch, decent blocker. Kind of like the Elemental Bond, Garruk's Pack Leader. Obviously costs a little bit more. Dies a little easier, but then again, it's also easier to go find, though typically there are other better creatures to find, but this is definitely good to draw. I would rank it not as good as Elemental Bond, but still worth playing. Doubling Season makes all the Planeswalkers go absolutely nuts, as well as doubling all my tokens, which is very, very good. Another haste outlet on a creature in Urabrask the Hidden. Also makes all the opponent's cards that they'd play to potentially block on my lethal turn come into play tapped, which is excellent. Rampaging Baloths, which is just a kind of like a mini Omnath. He does make beasts, not elementals this time. But after your general's been killed once or twice, being able to take lines where you need more mana as your follow-up after playing, he's very, very good, as well as doubling up on the effect is never bad. Getting multiple elemental bond triggers, etc. for each fetch land is definitely very nice. Mana Reflection, because it's just insane. It does the same thing it's always done since the beginning of time. You play it, and if it boards, you just start doing nutty stuff and potentially win on the very next turn quite easily. Doubles up everything: the Soul Rings, the Thran Dynamos, the Gilded Lotuses, the double lands. It's not just a +1. I consider it better than the other mana doublers. Doesn't help your enemies, just you. Collective Unconscious, the original draw for each creature, and we're making tons and tons of creatures, so good draw spell. Warstorm Surge, kill spell, kind of like Purphos, can quickly blow all the enemy creatures off the field or just kill everybody. Boundless Realms, disgusting landfall trick that pretty much will pull out all the lands in your deck and let you cast pretty much anything you want out of your hand. As much gas as you have, you can play, and makes tons and tons of elementals at the same time. So super big ramp spell. Avengers Zendikar, landfall tokens, we know what this card does. You get tons of lands out, it makes tons of tokens, it kills them with Purphos, it sets up Crater Hoof. Even if you just fetch a couple lands, it can do lots and lots of damage, makes tons of tokens for the draw number of creatures you have effects. Tooth and Nail, which will essentially have some way to probably instant win in this deck, whether it's go get a haste dude and Crater Hoof, or Avengers Zendikar and Purphos, or some combination of that crap, Eldrazi plus haste. There's always going to be something absolutely disgusting for Tooth and Nail to be doing. It's probably game ending, though we're not in black, so there's no easy way to tutor for the card, or blue. When we do get it, and we do have the mana, we're probably killing everyone. Karn Liberated gets rid of problematic cards that we don't have a lot of ways of getting rid of in this deck. Can get rid of creatures, can get rid of enchantments, can get rid of artifacts, can get rid of anything. It's also pretty damn good with the doubling season coming at 12. It's pretty difficult to stop. You can restart a game if you're in a really bad position, but mostly just comes in and vindicates things permanently a couple times, which is pretty damn good. Craterhoof Behemoth, probably the best finisher in the deck. Easy to tutor. When it comes into play, your army's probably got 10 dudes out, and you're probably killing the entire table. Ugin deals with problematic board states. Our General Wrath, Though you don't get to proc your token's little bolt things off as minus, being able to cast it at like 6 and let your Omnath not die and kill everything else is damn good. Gets rid of incredibly messy board states with a bunch of things that piss you off and gets rid of them for good. His plus is also very good. Off doubling season, he comes into play immediately minusing 10, which is absolutely disgusting in this deck, considering it's mostly permanents. Creature tutor that's sorcery speed into play. Creature tutor that's instant into play and has convoke. And tutors everything into play and kills the whole board. That's probably what this thing does. You get enough mana, Genesis Wave just ends the game. And then shuffle effect, card draw, and the big fat ugly beater of doom. Kozilek Butcher of Truth as our shuffle effect is pretty much top of the line and also top of the curve in that he can threaten with Annihilator and make people pretty much have to deal with him or they're going to get screwed. Draws cards when he comes in, so we've already refilled our gas. And an excellent way to shuffle our effects back into our deck, considering we don't have a whole lot of ways of bringing them back or tutoring them up. Can't play the Time Twister or anything like that in green-red, so pretty much the best shuffle effect I could think of. So, that was a quick deck tech of how I've got Omnath built right now, and so far it's been a hell of a lot of fun. And if I get any updates later, maybe I'll go through an update for this deck, but I think this deck is ready for casual-ish, not as turn 4-y type play with my buddies here, and I think I'm pretty happy with how it's going to work. Though I think I get to play Primeval Titan in that group, which means I'd cut something. Maybe just a Psalm Simulacrum or something. Getting to play Primeval Titan in this deck will be absolutely disgusting.